Hello, everybody, and good afternoon to our audience joining us across the continent and beyond. My name is Jesse, and I am your virtual adventure guide here with Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants. Now, welcome in our first month. We're almost ending our third week of full broadcast. We've done about 25 sessions with explorers and scientists around the globe. And if you're new to what we do, we are all about bringing conservation, adventure, and science into classrooms around the world. Now, every September for the last 4 or 5 years, we've done a heavy focus on marine plastics. This is an issue that we all face collectively as humanity. It's something that so many amazing people are working on, and there's no better guide to the world of this than Tati Besada. She is joining us today, going to talk to us about her amazing work founding and co-directing the incredible Unplastify organization, working to rethink our relationship with these things that are so pervasive. In this room around me, there are probably 50, 100 plastic objects, and Tati is an amazing guide to how we can start rethinking that, changing our habits, educating ourselves, and doing good for the planet. So, without further ado, I'm going to turn it over to her to tell you a little bit about her amazing personal story, how she became so vested in this issue. And so, without further ado, Tati, thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone. Thank you.
So nice to have you here. If you want to dive in with your presentation, we got it all queued up and we're good to go.
Good. So, well, I'm very excited to be here today and share with you my journey, my adventure, following curiosity, following questions to better understand what is wrong with plastic and what is happening with our relationship with plastic, the human relationship with plastic. So, first of all, how did this adventure begin? So it actually started when I was working at a recycling center in Brooklyn, New York. I was the director there, and I was literally surrounded by mountains of plastic. Every single day, we would see plastic bottles come in, pile up in these giant mountains of plastic, and then go out in trucks every single day. So that reality made me wonder and start asking questions. Why are we producing so much plastic waste? And what is happening with all the plastic that is not lucky enough to end up in a recycling center like this one? So those questions took me to the ocean. And since I am very curious, I followed that lead and I embarked on an adventure to see with my own eyes what was happening in the ocean with plastic. So I started my journey in New York. I crossed the North Atlantic in a sailboat. We went to Europe and then down south to South America, where I'm from. This journey took me 6 months. It entailed these 2 Atlantic crossings, and we were between 2 and 4 people on board, only 2 and 4 people. So this was a big challenge for me because I was not an expert sailor. So I had to learn a ton about sailing, about weather, about everything. This is the boat. It's a 36 feet sailboat. So imagine living for 6 months just on this 36 feet sailboat with not a lot of room for many people, and for days and nights, for example, 12, 13 days and nights without seeing land. So imagine this being in the middle of the ocean on this sailboat floating, seeing what's happening with plastics. Of course, this journey had tough moments, challenging moments. As I said, I was not an expert sailor. So for me, it was a big physical challenge, because imagine being on a washing machine inside, trying to cook, to to eat, to read, to sleep, all the time moving from one place to another. So that makes you dizzy, and I usually get seasick. So that was challenging for me. And then also the challenges of the environment. Sometimes the weather got rough. We had passed a tropical storm, and we had, really difficult 40 hours of really, really strong winds and rough weather. And then there was also a night in which we were um, 2, 3 days from land. One of my friends was his shift, because at night you keep on sailing, you don't stop for sleeping. So there's always someone that has to be on shift to look out for any dangers. So my friend Pablo was on deck. The others, we were trying to rest below deck. And then suddenly we feel as if we touched ground. Suddenly the boat stopped, and then it continues sailing. But you cannot touch ground in the middle of the ocean. That there are kilometers and miles of depth. It's impossible to touch ground. What was that? So we all woke up and we ran to deck and said, Pablo, what happened? And he told us that we just hit a whale. So imagine being in the middle of nowhere, hitting a whale that it's bigger than the boat. I was really afraid. Thankfully, nothing happened, neither to the boat nor the whale. The whale was fine. We saw it sailing and swimming away. Um, but that was really, really scary for me. But of course, why I was putting myself into danger for this curiosity, these questions. I really wanted to see with my own eyes what was happening with plastics in the most remote places on Earth, in the middle of the ocean. So that is why I took with me a device that it's called the Manta Troll, that allowed me to take samples of plastic in the surface of the water. So this is what I have in the picture on my hand. This device would filter the water. It's like a giant 3-meter sock, imagine, that you put down in the water, and it filters the water through a hole the size of my hand. And we would put down the Manta Troll in the water for 1 hour, and then we would take it out, and everything that has accumulated at the end, we would analyze. This is how a typical sample would look like. And it's kind of gross, no? We see a little bit of life, sometimes little crabs, algae, many different things that you can see are part of the ecosystem are there. But we can also see little bits of blue, white, black, little fibers. All those were microplastics, these tiny plastics that used to be giant plastics or a product that we use in our daily life, and it then breaks down. It just breaks down into smaller pieces. And when they become smaller than these, it's called microplastic. So I would analyze this sample and classify the different microplastics that we found. If it was fibers, fragments, little bits of film, or foam. And then we would count and we would report back to this organization that lended us the device. But besides these, that even when the most calm water looked pristine, and we took samples, we found plastics, we realized that this material doesn't go away. It doesn't disappear. When we throw plastic away, there is no way, because it never biodegrades. So this took us to create Unplastify. This journey, this adventure, was the basis, the founding of Unplastify, which is this organization that I run. And we have different beliefs. We learn different things in this journey that are now our key beliefs, and the reason why we do what we do. The first one is that the relationship we have as humans with this material, it's out of control. This material is ending up in the most remote places on Earth, and it's harming fauna. Entire ecosystems are getting altered, right? But this is related to the use of plastic. So it's not only a problem that is in the middle of the ocean, it's actually a relationship that is out of control in our daily life. If each of us start thinking about all the plastics that we interact with in our daily life, it's insane. I feel like this person in the picture, all surrounded by plastic. It's everywhere. It's even in the clothes we use. Many, many fibers are made out of plastic. So this is why we say that it's this relationship, this material that once was very, very useful, and it still is very useful for many, many things, we are using it too much, too excessively. And this is why it got a little bit out of control. But the problem is not the material itself. It's not the problem, the material. The problem is how we use it and how we abuse of this material. We are using it for too many things, too much. So the problem is how we are using it. We are using a material that is this indestructible, so we cannot biodegrade this material, and we are using it for items that are disposable. So I'm using a product that is disposable, but it's in a material that lasts forever. And that doesn't make sense. So we need to start thinking, when do I really need plastic? When I need a durable product. If it's a durable material, I need to use it like that. So we need to rethink how we are using it and start to think, when do I really need it? So we don't abuse, we don't use it too much. And the last thing we learn is that recycling, which may look like it's the solution to this problem, it's not the magic solution. It is part of the solution, is really important, but we should focus on prevention, which means we need to reduce the amount of plastic that we use. It's not just, oh, but I will recycle it later, because I worked in recycling for many years, and it takes so much effort, energy, logistics, operations, many things have to happen for something to get recycled. So it's much more effective. It's much better if we just avoid it. We don't create the plastic waste in the first place. That is the most smart thing we can do. So that is why we always say that we should focus on prevention, avoiding, saying no whenever we can avoid using this material. So some key data points that will help you understand the magnitude of this problem is that, for example, did you know that 11 million tons of plastic are entering the ocean every year? This is an estimation, and this is equal or equivalent to 30 Empire State Buildings every year. Imagine 30 Empire State Buildings of plastic entering the ocean. This is insane, right? This means that not a lot of plastic is being recycled, and many of these not well managed plastic, it's entering the ocean. Another fact is that only 9% of plastic is actually recycled. This varies a lot depending on which country we are, depending on which city we are, but still, on average, only 9%. These, for the youngest ones that are in this talk, it's if we use 10 bottles, only one of those 10 will get recycled. So this means 9%. The rest, it's burned or buried or dumped or escapes waste management systems, and it ends up in nature. And for this escaping and ending up in nature, I have a little story. When I was during the trip, we landed on a paradise island in the middle of the South Atlantic. It's a Brazilian island that it's called Fernando de Noronha, and it was literally paradise. It is a protected marine area. It's amazing. Any place you enter the water, you will see fish of every color, warm water, turtles swimming next to you. Insane, amazing. I was in this paradise and I found this bottle. I was in this pristine place and I found this bottle. I took it and I saw that it had all Asian letters. I don't know any language, any Asian language, so I don't know exactly which language is it. But I was in Brazil and this was probably produced and used in the other side of the world. And it had all different um, it was broken, probably many animals confused it with food, so it had all different bites and marks. And so these plastic that enter the ocean, they travel around, they they stay there forever, and they travel around and they just break down in smaller pieces. And unfortunately, there are more than 600 marine species that are being affected by plastic pollution, not only because they confuse it with food and they try to eat these, and but they also get entangled. There are many plastic nets, for example, left behind by fishing boats that that just stay there, and then many turtles, fish get entangled. So this is harming not only marine species, but also it's harming us because we are part of this ecosystem. We are part of this big ecosystem. So we need healthy oceans, healthy animals for us to be healthy. So this is a turtle. I love this picture. But it's really sad because it's a turtle that got entangled. So we need to be aware that what we do in our daily life, our own habits, have an impact. Because many times what we believe that will get well managed, waste management sometimes doesn't get well managed. And many times it ends up in places we don't want. So what can we do about it? This is the most important part of the talk. What can we do about it? As I was just telling you, the most important thing for us in Unplastify to do is to close the tap. Imagine you get into the bathroom and then suddenly the bathtub it's flooding and there's water everywhere. What can you do? Will you go with a little spoon and try to scoop out the extra water so it doesn't overflow? No, you better go and close the tap first, right? So this is the same. So we need to close the tap in our consumption of plastic. We need to stop using it excessively. Choose when we really, really need plastic. Do I really need this to be plastic? Can I bring something reusable so I don't use disposable plastic? So this is the invitation to you. We need to think and understand that this is a global problem that affects us all. But we need to act locally in our life, in our family, our friends, our groups at school. What can we do locally to help everyone stop or reduce using plastic? So we invite you to start thinking, to start designing your own ideas to avoid that plastic in your personal life. But then how can you take those strategies, those ideas into your entire classroom? So maybe with your teachers, they can help you to start thinking, okay, what can we do? What projects can we activate? Can we implement? This is not just about ideas. We need to act. We need to do something, and we can do something, and you can all do something, because this is what we do with Unplastify. We accompany, we guide groups of people, young students, to design ideas and implement them to have an impact locally and start developing and plastifying solutions. So why now? Because it's really, really important And we need to act now because this problem is becoming more important, more big, it's harming ecosystems. So we need to act now, and we can do it. This is the good part. Each one of you can do something to be part of the solution. So this is the invitation to unplastify the world together, to contribute to clean seas, to reduce the use of excessive plastic. How can we be part of the solution, rethinking our relationship with plastic and contributing to this mission that we have in Unplastify of unplastifying the world? So thank you. This is invitation to you all because we are all part of the solution. So I'm here for questions about plastics.
Patty, what a wildly enthusiastic program. You really are just such a passionate advocate for all of this, and I want to thank you so much for joining us today. If you want to exit your screen share so you can see us again, have a bit of a conversation, that would be great. I'll open up the invitation for all our YouTube classes. If you guys want to share questions in the chat, I'll be sure to pass along as many as we can over the next 20 minutes. But let's dive in with our live classes. So Thunder Bay, Ontario, Miss Delpino's class, you guys are our first group up, so I'm going to bring you guys in for a question if you have one for Tiny. Welcome in, guys. Hey, everybody. Hi. Do you have any questions for us?
Is there someone with a question?
Oh, a few hands up.
I see ya.
Hey.
Come on up. Yeah. Just so they can hear you better. You gotta speak nice and loud, okay? Quick.
We're coming. There we are. Hi.
Why do we make so much plastic?
Yes. No pressure.
That's a very difficult question. Why, right? Because I don't know. We are just used to it, and companies, put everything in plastic, and we are used to, and it's convenient sometimes. So it's a modern life. But now that we know the impact that it has, we can change that because we got here not knowing the real impact. That now that we know, we need to change this behavior of consumption. That's what I think.
I always love this question from students. And I mean, in the 1950s, when we really started developing plastic, it was a miracle material. I mean, that is worth noting with plastic, is that this wasn't designed to be something to destroy the environment. It's amazing stuff. And it still remains amazing stuff. The key is, as you so, relentlessly highlighted in your presentation, is the idea that we need to rethink how we use it, when we use it. We had a marine program earlier this month, and I think they said 90% of plastics are used once for about 5 minutes and thrown out. And really, you never need to be in a situation where you need to use something for 5 minutes and throw it out, where it's going to last for 10,000 years in the ocean. And so I think that's a great kickoff spot to get us going. Let's head to our second question, live with Madam Nancy's class. I know you guys have your camera off, but in Kamloops, British Columbia, if you want to unmute your microphone, you are good to go for a question with us. If you're there in the background, Madam Nancy's class.
Yeah,
There we are. Hi.
we have a few questions here.
Perfect.
So Aurora is going to ask a question.
Why doesn't all plastic dissolve?
Yes, good question. Hi, guys.
So it's funny because when we did the trip, in addition to taking samples, we interviewed different experts to learn more about the problem. And when we asked them, what is the problem with plastic? Many of them said, like, well, it's the benefit and the problem of plastic. It's just one, that it lasts forever.
Yeah.
So it depends, because if you want a product to last forever, to be durable, you have a chair that you want to last all your life. Well, that's fantastic, right? That you can find a material that lasts forever. But the problem is that when we are using that material, that it's in this, like it lasts forever, you're using it for disposable items. And that is when it starts accumulating. But for the definition of plastic, it doesn't dissolve, it doesn't biodegrade, it doesn't go back to nature. That's the nature of plastic.
Yeah, we're starting to develop materials and some plastics that have the capacity of breaking down a little bit differently. We're at this point where so much is changing so quickly, and this has been really fun doing plastics programs over the last 5 years, is that there's so much innovation and discovery and fits and starts. But you're absolutely right. The essence is don't waste. If you don't have to use it to begin with, that saves 99% of the problem from happening in the first place. And I think that's something that sort of underpins a lot of our conservation conversations in all our programs throughout the year. So great question, guys. So many questions. Our live groups, you don't need to share them in the chat. I will come to everybody live in a second. YouTubers, you're welcome to share there. But let's head to Miss Finn's fourth graders joining us. Welcome in, guys, in Freehold, New Jersey. Hi, unmute your mic. There we are.
Hello, I have Casey here, and the class is listening in. It's a little sunny behind us. But
Hey, Casey.
You say hi? Hi. Can you go ahead, ask them a question you were wondering.
Why don't people use other products instead of plastic?
Yeah.
I ask myself the same question, but I keep on giving these talks so people start using other materials. I think it's a little similar to the first question, no? Like, why? Because we are so used to using plastic that we don't think about other materials, but sometimes it makes sense, right? We all like to eat with real forks and knives, no? Like when we are, or spoons, like it's not nice to eat with a plastic spoon disposable. But life and organizations and companies and everything got to a point in which we are using it in places that, but it's better to drink from a glass cup or a mug like this, for example. So why are we using so much plastic? It's the same question I do to myself every day. Why? I don't know. It's just so convenient, and we are so used to it that, but we can collaboratively, each one in their own place, can start changing these realities, a change movement, right? To start using other materials, which is great idea.
It's the greatest thing about plastic. So as opposed to some of the other issues in the world of conservation and sort of public impact on the environment, plastics is one that we all recognize as a problem. No one goes to a beach covered in plastic and goes, great, how nice is this? Everyone sees that and goes, horrible. And you see birds tangled up in it. You see the area spoiled. And so one thing that we're starting to see from a lot of our classrooms is things like packing a reusable lunch. So when I was a kid, I had 10 pieces of plastic that I ate and threw out. And as I grew up, I learned from people like Tati, and now I pack a lunch when I go places that's all reusable. It's either cutlery, it's dishes, it's things that I can wash and reuse many, many hundreds of times. And that really does make a big difference. Most kids in classes nowadays will have reusable water bottles. We all have one of these now. When I was a kid, we did not all have one of those. Nobody had a reusable water. It just didn't exist hardly at all. And so that's an exciting shift that we've been seeing in the public. And so I love these questions, guys. You guys are like right on the ball. Let's head to Macmillan Elementary. Miss Allen's class, if you guys want to come on in 7/8, just unmute your mic and you're good to go. Hey, everybody. Oh, hi. Are you guys good for a question? Are you excited for a question? Are you gone? Middle of a switchover? Welcome in, guys. I can always check back in a minute. Hi.
Hi. Anybody have a question, you guys?
No, that's okay. That's fair. I appreciate the honesty. There we go. Well, let's head to Emeryville. I know that they have questions there, our grade 7 class. So welcome in. Unmute your mic and go for it. Hey, guys.
Okay, ready? Kenzie?
Oh, okay.
Come on up. Presley? Come on up. Go ahead.
Oh, right in front of.
Yeah, go ahead.
No pressure.
Did plastic in fashion start, and why do we use it in clothes?
Ooh, interesting.
Wow. I think it's for the same reason that we've been talking about this durability, especially with clothes. You want a sweater to last forever, right? And these plastic fibers allow us to make cheaper. And this is a really important fact of why we are using plastic so much, because it's cheap and more durable. So many of our clothes are not 100% cotton or 100% linen. They are mixed with plastic fibers that it's really, really common. Most of our clothes, like you can check the tags of your clothes and you will read the different types of plastic that it has, polyethylene, like many different things. But yeah, it's very common. And I think at the beginning, we didn't use clothes like we use them today. Today, many clothes are designed to last one season. That is again the problem, because if we made sweaters made out of plastic fiber that they last 20, 25 years, 30 years, I think it's great. But then when I don't like it anymore because it's, from last season and I buy a new one, so it becomes something that it's sort of disposable. That is when I think it doesn't make sense.
I like this question of when it started to become a thing. I remember when I was a kid, we didn't really have so many polyester, nylon, acrylic, like all these things that are sort of embedded into so many different kinds of clothes. And it has made for very unique fashion choices. And I mean, one thing we're seeing, and certainly our kids will be familiar with today, is fast fashion, which, as you said, Tati, is, you get a piece of clothing, you wear it a few times, you get rid of it. So again, it's this essence, don't waste, whether it's emissions, whether it's food, whether it's plastics. I mean, all of these things are, linked in some way or other for making the world a better place and not having so much of an impact on the planet. And again, we're seeing this en masse, and it's kids' generations. Tati, you and I know this. We sort of expected it would be like our generation, a little bit younger maybe, that would like dive in and lead the world and all this. And we did pretty good. You founded an amazing organization, but it's kids that are 16 and under that are leading the charge, that are marching in 500,000 groups to really hold us accountable and really take action. So that's been really exciting to see, is that your generation is the one that's really taking charge in all these things. Let's dive in with another round of questions. Again, YouTube classes, if you guys have any, please feel free to share in the chat. But let's head back to Thunder Bay to Miss Delpino's class if you have another one for us. Hey, guys. Everybody's got a question. Hi.
Okay, Sarah has a question here.
What plastic product makes the most pollution?
Waste, yeah.
I like that question because I have an enemy material that is styrofoam. Because it's like it's plastic, styrofoam, it's plastic, but with air. So this means that it's really, really expensive to recycle. So it barely gets recycled because it's expensive. And then it also means that when we are trying to dispose it correctly, it's so light that any breeze, any wind, we blow it away. So in the water, in the river that I have here in Rio de la Plata, in Argentina, we see a lot of styrofoam, pieces of styrofoam, because it's very, very light. So that, to me, it's the most harming one, because it's really difficult to manage inland. So it escapes because it's so light. So I think if I have to choose one, styrofoam.
There's a fantastic company, I can't for the life of me think of their name. They're in California, and they're starting to, instead of styrofoam, they grow that packaging material with fungi, and they've gotten billions of dollars for this. Like, they're very, very successful in growing basically reusable, biodegradable stuff that fills the same role. And this is something that we see a lot in the plastics world, is trying to find these alternate materials that we've talked about a few times. So fantastic. One that bugs me personally, for what it's worth, plastic water bottles. In Canada, in the United States, where a lot of our classes are, almost everywhere in both countries, you can get completely free, reliable water out of your tap in unlimited quantity.
Yes.
And you shouldn't take advantage of that, but to go to a store and to spend more money per volume than you do on gas or ink for water bottles is ridiculous when you have free tap water coming out of, your home. I will note before we go to Madam Nancy's class, Miss Delpino's class, way to go with all the Every Child Matters shirts. So Tati, in Canada tomorrow, it's the National Day of Truth and Reconciliation for Indigenous Communities. And so many orange shirts in the class. And so way to go, you guys. Kamloops, let's head back to Madam Nancy's class. Come on in if you have a second question. Unmute your mic. Hey.
We have Eva here as a question.
Why do companies produce so much plastic?
Yes.
Oh, can you repeat?
Yeah, why do companies produce so much plastic? So from the corporate side, why are they wasting so much? Is it the same answer?
I think there are two answers to that. One, it's because it's cheap. And second, because in most countries, they don't have to pay for the waste they generate. So if they had to pay for all the pollution that their plastics are producing, oh, that would be more expensive. So they would think twice if they use plastic or not. But since it's free for them to pollute, because no one is charging them for what happens with their plastics after they're used. So I think it's a matter of costs, right? It's cheap, and then it's cheap or free to pollute. So that's why.
I don't know what the situation is in Argentina. In Toronto, where I grew up, there's different size garbage bins that you can have for your home. And the bigger one you have, the more you pay every month for the privilege of being able to throw out that much more. And that has proven to reduce people's impact. They make less garbage, but they don't want to have to pay for the bigger garbage bin. So this monetary incentive to not pollute, to not waste, is hugely effective. We see this around the globe. And of course, there are certain countries that are doing a much better job of this than others. Typically in Scandinavia, you'll see some really great stuff around plastics and recycling and reducing that waste burden in the first place. So I love this question. And again, great shirts, guys, in Madam Nancy's class. Let's head to Miss Finn's fourth graders. Come on back in and take us away.
Gianni's on his way over. He's going to ask a question. Come on over, Gianni.
Hey, Gianni.
Hey, go ahead.
Why can't we make bridges out of plastic, like walking bridges?
So
why can't we make what out of plastic?
Bridges. So like reusing the plastic bottles and things to create another, like you said, a bridge, for example.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know bridges, because I think bridges need like a very specific structural materials that are really, really rough and tough. And so bridges are made out of like steel and different materials that are stronger. But there are many items that are made out of plastic, recycled plastic. But the thing is that sometimes it's so expensive to recycle that it's cheaper to go and buy virgin material. You know what I mean? So sometimes recycling gets expensive. So that is why we don't recycle as much. So, but there are many products that are made out of recycled plastic. There are benches and I don't know, different playgrounds for parks.
Yeah.
There are many different things, especially for outdoors. There's a company here in Argentina, and I think it's everywhere, that made a similar to wood blocks. So you can create, I don't know, like a different products with that as if it was wood. So there are many different uses, but still with all that, we are recycling very little.
Yep.
So we still need to reduce.
Yeah. Well, when I was a kid, it was the 3 R's, but recycle was definitely the big one. Everyone's like, oh, you've got the plastic bottle, you throw it in the recycling bin, it's going to be perfect now. And it's not perfect now. And so this is the essence of all of this. I do love the making thing question, though. Our favorite example we've ever had on was a group called Burrito that makes like sunglasses and skateboards and surfboards out of recycled plastic. So it sort of makes it really cool and exciting for people, which I absolutely love. One cool thing, a project I want you guys to check out when you're done is called, here, let me get up a banner for it. Washed Ashore. This is making art with recycled plastic and then using that as a tool for educating the public. So we've seen this at zoos and aquariums across Canada and the United States. Check out Washed Ashore, some really, really cool stuff there. Let's go to our Miss Mask's class in Emeryville for two final questions from them, and then we'll wrap up with how our kids can keep the learning going. So Emeryville, unmute your mic. Hey, guys.
Why is everything made with plastic?
And what's your second question? You have two, you said.
If we know plastic is so bad, why do companies keep using it?
That's a very good question. You guys are making yourself the same questions I do myself every day, because to me it makes sense, right? It's clear that we need to shift and we need to change and transition from using plastic as much to using other materials. But I think this knowing about the harms and pollution of plastic is recent in a way. So we started talking very, very strongly about these issues in the last 5-6 years. So companies are still taking time to transition, but many, many companies are already exploring alternative materials because they know this is an issue and they cannot continue like that. But change takes time, effort, and local action. This is really important that consumers everywhere start showing that we don't want this much plastic anymore. We want something else. And that is when companies will react faster. This is really important to know.
It's been really amazing seeing how a lot of companies went from being like, there's no way we can do that, it's impossible, in 5 years, to we have Walmart Canada that's banning plastic bags. We have Tim Hortons, our biggest coffee chain across the country, that is now all entirely paper straws instead of plastic straws. And so when the collective public will gets big enough to fight these issues, it's amazing how quickly companies can make that transition and do some positive good. Tati, this has been so much fun. Thank you for all of this, more than you know. I want to note for all our classes, if you want to check out unplastify.com, check them out at Unplastify on any social media platform. You'll learn so much more. You'll see some of these programs and solutions in action. It's a really special opportunity to keep the learning going. But before we wrap up, Tati, is there any last message you want to share with our kids to go home with before we wrap up the broadcast?
Well, I think it's empowering them. Like, you need to know that you have power. You can change this. It's not what can companies do, what can the government do. It's what can I do in my local life, in my local community, with my friends, and how can I push change locally in my surrounded community. So this is the invitation to you, to be part of the solution and to be empowered, to know that you can make a difference.
Outstanding. Well, I'll leave up unplastify.com one more time. And Tati, what we do to end every broadcast, I'm going to bring in all our teachers to say a big thank you and farewell. So Miss Del Pino's class, Madam Nancy, McMillan 7/8, and Emeryville, Ontario, welcome in, guys. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody, and have a wonderful rest of the